Old heads complaining but don't wanna teach. Righteous right to report till I come from the streets. God raised his son from the pavement. Righteous man live around some cavemen. God raised his son from the pavement. Righteous man live around some cavemen. God raised his son from the pavement. Righteous man live around some cavemen. God raised his son from the pavement. Righteous man, a righteous man. Yeah. In this video, we are going to discuss the history of Yakub. Yakub was born in the year 4770 BC. He was an introverted child who preferred to spend time alone. He loved to think about and solve problems. He had a magnetic personality, and other children wanted to be around him. He thought about and concentrated on every subject that entered his mind. No subject was too taboo for his imagination. During his time, there was a 30% dissatisfaction rate within the global population. By the time he was 14, he had already solved many problems that caused a cultural gap between children and adults. In other words, he solved problems typical to adolescence that caused children to rebel against adults. Yakub, who discovered his mission early in life after playing with steel, discovered that the magnetic poles that existed within steel represented the tension of opposites that existed within human beings. According to Elijah Muhammad, Yakub playing with steel was a pivotal moment in his life and in the history of the universe. Elijah Muhammad writes, "He learned his future from playing with steel. It's steel and more steel that this made race are still playing with. Steel has become the most useful of all metals for the people." What he really saw in playing with two pieces of steel was the magnetic power of attraction. Yakub's wife was named Masai, which means Miss Manners. She was very serious and organized and was more mature than her peers. She was the opposite of Yakub, making them perfect soulmates. After being married, Yakub and his wife started to recruit followers to take part in a special mission. They began to teach a new doctrine. This doctrine was previously unheard of. They began to teach that the peace and prosperity of the ancestors was a result of not being able to express their creativity fully. Yakub taught and proved that there were certain aspects of our imagination and bodies that were deliberately suppressed by the leaders and the 24 elders. He taught that the freedom and peace that they were experiencing was false because they were being denied knowledge and aspects of mind and body. Most people were opposed to this new teaching. In Holy Quran 2:30, it reads, "And when your Lord said to the angels, 'Indeed, I will make upon the earth a successive authority,' they said, 'Will you place upon it one who causes corruption therein and sheds blood?' While we declare your praise and sanctify you, Allah said, 'Indeed, I know that which you do not know.'" It's important to remember that even though Yakub was the first to bring evil into the universe, that only knew peace, he was not evil himself. Yakub was destined for this work as it helps the universe to discover all that is within itself. Our universe seeks an increase in knowledge and experience. The original people of our planet are considered the wisest in the universe because they are willing to experiment on themselves for the sake of wisdom. Elijah Muhammad explains, Yakub was the same as we until he entertained the idea of making an enemy for us. Yakub himself was not an enemy, but his wisdom, knowledge, and know-how to make an enemy for us caused him to be classified then as being a chief devil or the enemy of the righteous. There is evidence of making a mortal from the essence of another in the Holy Quran. In the Holy Quran 15:28 it states, "When your Lord said to the angels, 'Surely I'm going to make a mortal of the essence of black mud fashioned in shape.'" There were a number of people during that time who were curious about the teaching and were willing to follow Yakub and Masai. These individuals would eventually become the 60,000 Elohim who founded the world for the 6,000 year cycle of self forgetfulness. These 60,000 volunteers would be taken to the island of Pelan or Patmos to begin an experiment that would last 6,000 years. Yakub's teachings sparked the beginning of a 6,000 year cycle. This cycle would become known as the cycle of self forgetfulness, or this world in the Bible. This cycle would bring about a new people with a nature that was opposed to peace. In fact, even the plants and animals of today are different by nature than the original animal and plant totems. For example, there were no blood-sucking animals or parasites in the ancient society. These animals are a direct reflection of the foul nature and thought processes and actions of the people of this world. The Earth's magnetic field records the development of life from the thought processes and minds of its inhabitants. Animals and plants receive their developmental direction from this magnetic field. Each animal represents a partial manifestation or a portion of our minds and aspects of the character of the modern society. Modern scientists have identified these portions of the brain and categorized them as the mammalian brain, reptilian brain, and insectoid brain. These animals developed from a part of the human mind. This is in direct contrast to the teachings of modern day evolution. There are two events in our ancient history that show evidence of the preparation for the arrival of Yakub and this world. These events are the deportation of the moon and the self-isolation in the jungles of East Asia. While we have two other videos on these two subjects, we will give a brief summary of how they relate directly to the work of Yakub. The story of the deportation of the moon shows that within the original people was a dormant part that was capable of opposing peace. The god Shabazz, who made the moon, wanted to destroy the entire population. Elijah Muhammad writes, "We used to say, and many of us still say, that Yakub was the first god of murder, which is true for his race that he made. Now, the God who tried to destroy us along with himself, his effort to do so caused the making of our moon. The God of the moon had murder and destruction of the human family in his mind. He was not successful in doing so. Allah used this history of that God to teach us what was in the mind of this new people. The deportation of the moon is analogous to the losing of knowledge of self during our enslavement. Elijah Muhammad compares the two events, the blasting away of the moon by an enemy that robbed the moon of its life, water, and poured it onto this part of the planet, Earth, can also be compared with the evil slave traders guided by John Hawkins, the explorer, to come among us and take us by force and bring us to this part of the earth among strangers whom our fathers knew not. Elijah continues, "Here we the black man in America stand as a moon devoid of wisdom and the knowledge of self and others, and the moon is devoid of water." Another scientist 50,000 years ago by the name of Shabazz decided to make a tougher people. This would prepare us for Yakub's experiment and help us to endure slavery and disease that would be introduced by this made man. The origin of kinky hair came from one of our dissatisfied scientists 50,000 years ago who wanted to make all of us tough and hard in order to endure life in East Asia and overcome the beast there. He failed to get others to agree with him. He took his family and moved into the jungle to prove to us that we could live there and conquer wild beasts, and we have. Yakub would become known as the evil scientist, even though he was not evil. This is because he was the first to bring violence, murder, and deceit to the universe. Yakub simply knew that if your peace could be destroyed, it was not worth much. He reasoned that the ancient people experienced peace and freedom simply because they had not experienced evil and ignorance, which was suppressed by the elders. The elders knew of Yakub and his destiny. In fact, they had prepared for his arrival 44,000 years prior to his mission. Yakub possessed an unusual intelligence as he was a descendant of a new people who had their native intelligence altered 44,000 years by self-isolation. The name Yakub means big head scientist. Yakub would be known by this name until he came into the fullness of understanding of his mission. He realized that his mission was that of a creator, God of a new people, and patriarch to the Israelites. After this realization, he would no longer be called Yakub, but would be called Yahweh. The purpose of the mission of Yakub was to give flesh to that part of black people that lie dormant. According to Elijah Muhammad, this wicked material will not be in the black man for anyone to use after the removal of the present world, or as we know it, this world in the Bible.
God raised his son from the pavement, a righteous man, yeah. Jeru, city that we making, prophecy be patient, nation with the nation, revolution contemplating, that's why I'm reading, rapping revelations, righteous revolution, reviving a nation, sojourner 1804 nation, complete the mission, off to the spaceship.